Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the South Node in major adverse aspect to Neptune in a natal horoscope. Well, as most of you know, the South Node is associated with what we generally will emphasize or accentuate very strongly, often in the first part of our lives, and after a certain amount of time it becomes kind of monotonous. It's like a redundant spot, and we often divert to the North Node. We hit around age 30 or so, and not necessarily eradicating the South Node energy completely, but merely integrating it at least somewhat with the North Node energy. Now, Neptune is connected with delusion, confusion of dreams, ideals, deception. It's even associated with dancing, the seas, I guess, and the sea, chemicals, and anyway, let me get started. The first thing is, when I look at some people that have Neptune in a major adverse aspect to the South Node, it could indicate that perhaps this person may have their dreams, their ideals, perhaps they're somewhat in conflict with what that soul's mission or purpose is. Perhaps this person might have periods of being overly idealistic about certain things, maybe connected with what their purpose is, or could, when I say that, perhaps maybe an overestimation of their ability. It could be connected with something where maybe delusion to some degree, and when I say that, I just mean just a basic maybe overestimation of perhaps a certain ability, or maybe they have certain they might have an underestimation to some degree, or undervalue their abilities, thus deceiving themselves in a certain way. When I say they have, when I'm talking about as far as a delusion, I'm not saying they're necessarily delusional. I just mean that maybe there could be a possibility to have a distorted view of what they're capable of doing, and then perhaps an undermining their talents to some degree. This could indicate that perhaps this person needs to be wary of deceptive people a little bit more, and which might preclude them from attaining what they want to do, or at least might cause a roadblock or some kind of obstruction connected with this. We take this could be a person who's perhaps they might have something in their mind as far as their viewpoint to some degree might clash with what, I guess, what you could say, what collectively, what the majority may think, as far as could be their ideals to some degree, or maybe ideals maybe people see them as being unrealistic and they lack practicality or pragmatism. This could be somebody, for instance, that might have a strong interest in the metaphysical to some degree, or some astrological subjects, and or subject, I should say, and it could maybe conflict with what a lot of other people may believe. And though, of course, you know, I believe in it, because that's why I'm doing the videos, because I do believe in it. I actually have this aspect. I have Neptune making a square aspect to my South Node, and this is something where, if you have obviously if you have the square aspect, you're going to have Neptune square the North Node as well. I have Neptune in the 7th house square my South Node in the 5th, which could indicate that perhaps people that are, I guess you could say, in whether it's platonic or otherwise relationships, I do believe I have encountered people that have been somewhat deceptive, and perhaps precluded me to some degree more in the first half of my life, as far as me concentrating perhaps on my creative expression, whether it's through art or otherwise. I had some certain distraction with friends, and of course many of you know Neptune in the 7th often indicates someone that may be very philanthropic in terms of how they are toward people in the relationships, but a lot of times they won't get the other party to reciprocate or do much in return. Now with this aspect, of course, I have Neptune square the North Node, so obviously in the part of life that I'm in now, in that latter or second half, this could indicate some kind of distraction from these same kind of people if I'm not careful, and could preclude me to some degree from that North Node in Pisces in the 11th thing, which could indicate perhaps making friends from people to people perhaps through my astrological, I guess you can consider it a metaphysical subject, which would be the Pisces, and then the 11th house is the house of friendship. So it's just important to, with these, any kind of time you have a negative aspect with Neptune, to be wary of the illusion and the deception that's connected with it, and don't and to try not to let it, if you have knowledge of it and you're cognizant of, that's half the battle, but knowing this is half the battle, and being able to, it gives you a better chance to do something about it, and perhaps be less susceptible to con artists and swindlers, etc. So anyway, people, the only last thing I want to get at, of course, if somebody has the South Node in opposition to Neptune, they obviously have the North Node conjunct Neptune, which at least in the latter part of their life they have something a little more positive to look forward to, and this could indicate somebody that can incorporate idealism, imagination, and maybe being able to do something connected, perhaps with a Neptune flavoring, such as photography, special effects, something with their imagination, perhaps writing fiction novels, for example, working as a chemist, maybe working with the chemicals in that thing, as a chemist, for as an example, oceanography, something where they could apply this Neptune type flavoring into what they want to do, or even when I say flavoring, it's I would say even more so as far as the ideal, as far as the more like the adjectives connected with it, but as far as imagination and idealism, but it could also indicate that the person may be able to be interested in one of the Neptunian vocations that I described as well. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Neptune and major adverse aspect to the South Node in a natal horoscope. Stay tuned next time, where I'll be talking about Pluto conjunct the South Node in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.